What if the problem isn't you? What if you're in the wrong room? My suspicion? You're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. You have outgrown where you are. Let's get more space and freedom to redesign the life you deserve. Welcome to the Reinvention Room. I'm Allison Hare, coach for ambitious women making big changes, and we are rethinking everything we've been taught. Part pop culture, part real talk, and all smarter ways to live life on your own terms. What happens when the law decides your body no longer belongs to you, even in a life or death situation? My guest today, YouTube pioneer and founder of Makeup Geek Cosmetics, is Marlena Stell. And she found herself trapped in a legal and medical nightmare after 2 miscarriages turned into abortions that she was denied because of where she lived in Texas. And it nearly cost her her life. This isn't just her story. It is a wake-up call. We're talking about what happens when policies override people and what you can do about it. Stay with me, because this conversation might change the way you see everything. And if you have somebody who you feel like really needs to hear the reality of the situation of Roe v. Wade being turned over, please send this episode to them. Let's get into my chat with Marlena Stell. Oh, we're here with one of my favorite people. We're here with Marlena Stell. Marlena is the founder of Makeup Geek Cosmetics. So if you're familiar with Makeup Geek, it is a massive brand that has gone through its own evolution. But we are not here to talk about makeup. We are here to talk about Marlena. Marlena, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. And Allison, you're such a sweetheart. I adore you to pieces.
I love that our paths have crossed, but what has been really interesting to me is getting to know you personally. I mean, obviously, you're a total badass, and have a really, really large platform on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, and you're just really, really well known and well respected in the cosmetic space. But how public you have been around your experience with abortions and miscarriages and being in the moment that we're in politically and in a state of transition where there is a lot of fear. There's a lot that's going on now. And I am so grateful to have you be so generous with your time and sharing your story, because I think it's really important because you have such a unique perspective being a public person. So Marlena, thank you for being here. And I would love for you to kind of begin where you would like to begin. This is your story.
Yeah. So I am originally from the West Coast. I was born and raised in California, but I've lived in many states around the US. So Florida, Michigan, Washington State, California, and then now Texas. We've been in Texas for about 3 years now. I mean, just to rewind, I have my daughter. I have a 4-year-old little girl that I had in Washington right at the peak of COVID. Her birth story is absolutely wild. Right when COVID had started, and it was at the hospital that COVID had first shown up at in the United States. So that already was kind of an adventure.
Notable. Yeah.
Yes. So fast forward to 2021, right after I had my daughter, we moved to Texas and we were trying to have another baby because I'm an older mom, and we found out in August of 2021 that I was expecting, and we were so excited. We wanted to have a sibling for my daughter, and everything looked okay on the first scan that we did. They said everything's good. They think they see a heartbeat. I came back a couple weeks later and the baby was just gone. There was no heartbeat anymore. There was no growth. I was absolutely devastated. And I knew from a previous miscarriage I'd had before my daughter was born that I cannot, my body on its own has a hard time recognizing a miscarriage. So I just keep carrying it. And
Wow.
it's a family thing. My mom had the same. My mom has had 5 miscarriages. Same thing. She's always had to have DNCs for them because our bodies just don't recognize it. So I intuitively knew that from my first miscarriage I had. So as soon as I found out that this pregnancy wasn't viable, they asked me what I wanted to do. And I said immediately I would like a DNC done because that's what I had in Washington with my previous miscarriage. And it was a smooth process. Everything was well. And I didn't want to risk myself or my health because I wanted to still be able to try again. And the crazy part is that all happened only 2 weeks after the heartbeat bill had passed in Texas. I didn't even know all the details about it because I wasn't really paying attention to it. And the doctor, straight out when I asked for a DNC, she said, "No, we can't give you one. The heartbeat bill just passed, and we aren't offering those. You're just going to have to try to miscarry on your own." So I left
Wow.
feeling like, yeah, it's crazy. I was like, wait, what? And then I had to spend time researching, okay, what is this heartbeat bill? What is all that? I had heard of it just in passing, but never really paid attention. I was like, why is that affecting me? I miscarried. So how does that affect me? And for the couple weeks after that, I was just playing a waiting game. It was horrifying because when I think a lot of people don't realize when you miscarry and you know that it has passed, you feel like a walking coffin. So you are just
Wow.
anticipating. It's just, I don't know how else to describe it. It really feels like you are just walking around at any moment. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything because is it going to pass now? Is it going to happen now? And I was getting in severe pain. So I knew something was already wrong. So I kept calling the doctor back. Hey, my pain is getting really severe. It was getting to the point I was having a hard time walking because I was cramping so badly. It was shooting to my back. I couldn't bend over. I had a hard time walking. I started getting heart palpitations, sweating, just random symptoms. I was like, I knew, I was like, something is not right. Please get me a DNC because I was not passing anything, but I was having lots of other symptoms. They still denied it and said no. So then I'm getting scared and we don't know what to do at this point. And so then I started looking at abortion clinics to go to because I looked, I was Googling online, okay, where to go. I had tried calling other doctors. No one would take me. That was the other issue. I don't know if you want me to talk about in Texas. I had to call because I'm a high risk person. I had to call 10 OBs when I first found out I was pregnant to even find one that would take me. Most because in Texas, the standard care is you aren't even supposed to see an OB until you're at least 10 weeks pregnant, which for someone like me who is high risk, who's an older mom, I need to be checked immediately to make sure everything's okay. Is this an ectopic pregnancy? Is my health
Yeah.
okay?
God. How far along were you at this point?
I was 9 weeks.
And I wonder when they suggested, and I'm just not familiar with this, if you were to miscarry on your own, what does that mean?
It's just that you bleed out on your own at home. You just they
Jesus.
It's a waiting game of just being like, okay, you have to wait for your body to expel it. But for someone like me who has a family history and also has a previous miscarriage where I didn't pass it, that's a severe problem because now it's a waiting game to see, am I going to get infected? Am I going to go
Yeah.
septic? What's going to happen?
Jeez.
Yeah, it's
So you're
not.
calling all these OBs, and then what happened?
And, the 10th one that would take me, even when I first when I was pregnant, was the one that I ended up going to. It was in downtown Houston. And they were the ones that said, no, we're not going to give you a DNC when I found out that my pregnancy wasn't viable. And so then I started calling around Planned Parenthoods, other places, because my husband and I, our first thought was, okay, let's get a plane ticket and go back to Washington and go to the hospital where I had my first miscarriage because they gave me a DNC in less than 2 days after they found out the pregnancy wasn't viable. And I started having severe pain back then and wasn't passing anything. They got me in immediately for DNC. There was no questions asked. It was such a smooth process. Even when after the surgery was done, it was done in a hospital. The nurses, when I woke up from the anesthesia, there was a nurse rubbing my legs. They had a warm blanket on me. They
Mm,
asked if I wanted to see a chaplain. They, asked emotionally, was
was
I okay?
dignified. Yeah,
It
you
was
were cared for.
I was cared for. It was dignified. I mean, they took such amazing care of me. They actually cared. They called me a couple days after my DNC, asked how I was feeling. Again, how was I emotionally? How was I physically? It was a completely different experience in Washington than what I had in Texas. I was shocked. I just assumed that's how all care would be, and it wasn't. So our first thought was for this miscarriage was to fly back to Washington, go to the same hospital, but I was in such severe pain and we didn't know if I was something was going to happen. How do I even get on a plane?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a risk because that's a 4-hour plane ride from Texas to Washington. So then we ended up finding an abortion clinic in downtown Houston that at the time, fortunately, was open. They are not open now. That I was able to go to, and they got me in within a couple days of me calling them. And they said, you still have to prove that this isn't a viable pregnancy. So I had to go to multiple places and get multiple ultrasounds, which,
Oh my God.
right? And a lot of people think, well, what's the big deal? Wouldn't you want to check that your baby's gone? Of course, but that's a baby that you want, there's another layer of emotional trauma when you have to relive the moment over and over and over again, and seeing a nurse's face sit in silence and awkwardness and say, I'm so sorry this is gone. It's like, yeah, I know that. It's just another layer of emotional trauma that really shouldn't happen unless it was something that I chose to do, to double check on my own, not be forced to do, to be deemed qualified to even get care. That's what was really frustrating.
Yeah. And I wonder even about, it's like the believe women thing. And I
Yes.
understand you have to do that. But like, I wonder, did you feel like you were like, I swear I'm telling the truth. Like you're almost walking in as if you were a liar.
Exactly.
And the emotional trauma of that. How do you even begin to process that?
You don't. I mean, to be honest, each ultrasound that I had, and of course, because I'm under in my first trimester, it's a transvaginal ultrasound. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on this podcast. Sorry.
You can say whatever. I'm
Okay.
from New Jersey, so you can you can drop whatever bombs you need to.
Okay. So it's a transvaginal ultrasound because I'm in my first one. And that's just another layer of just ick because you're laying there. You don't want this done. This is an awkward situation. And all I can do is just sit there and cry. And it's so embarrassing to sit there with a total stranger that is thinking this is a happy time, usually. And I'm
Right.
going in knowing already it's bad news, but I have to
Yeah.
prove that it is
Oh,
in order to just get care. It's like, why do I have to fight so hard to get a DNC for something that is very much proven not to be viable? Totally different experience than what I had in Washington. And I didn't even know how to process it, to be honest. So I think now, several years later, I'm still dealing with the trauma from it. Uh,
yeah.
and I seek counseling and all of that because the experience was just emotionally traumatic, for sure.
And what I'm interested to learn about, so I struggled with infertility and did IVF to get my daughter. And I remember through this process of having some failed attempts at IUI and all of those things, and even just the process of I don't know if this is going to work. And there was such a profound loneliness and isolation of like, and back then she's 9 now, but back then people didn't talk as much about their infertility issues. I mean, nobody's going on Facebook going, hey, who's miscarried? You know what I mean? Like who can't get knocked up? I'm struggling here. And
Yeah.
I had a lot of people, I was trying to find people that had gone through IVF. What did that look like in terms of your support? Did it feel isolating? Were you able to reach out? Were there groups that were able to help support and help you navigate this?
No, not at all. It felt so incredibly lonely because here I am. I'm in a new state. We just recently moved there, so I don't really know many people. I was so desperate for the 2 weeks that I was begging to get a DNC. I was reaching out to doctors online on Twitter, private messaging them. Hey, this is my story. Can you please give me advice? I'm not getting any help here. I don't know what to do. Is it okay for me to get on a plane? I mean, I'm getting absolutely no answers or whatever. And fortunately, there was one doctor on social media and she'd recognized me and said, I definitely would try to get into an abortion clinic or somewhere. You've got to get this taken care of before you go septic. And that's what I ended up doing. But I had to seek that support from strangers on the internet versus getting that help in person. And that was another layer of frustration.
I tend to get really, really angry, especially when I hear men talking on social media. And I don't know why their instinct is to say, well, just go to a different state. Like it's no big deal.
Oh,
And
yeah, no
and
big deal.
you are fortunate enough that you had the resources to do
Mhm.
this. And,
Do not.
you know, being in a position now where there is a really great risk of losing access altogether
Mhm.
through not just through Texas, but
Mhm.
through potentially a federal mandate. And what I think is really unique about your experience is you have a public life. And I think as the elections were coming around and just the opportunity to get you proper health care and to get women proper health care and
Mhm.
options that are available. I don't know why there is a rhetoric that abortions are just casual things like, nah, I'm not interested. Like at 9 months, you're gonna walk in and try and get an abortion.
That's what's so crazy to me is that stereotype. It's like, I think that people think that abortions are, we're just going to hop and skip after our trip to the nail salon and
Right.
end a pregnancy like it's some sort of casual thing. It's not. If it's someone's even considering that, this is a severe life decision that
Yeah.
is has a lot of risks at stake that they have to personally think of. So why is it everyone else telling them what decisions they're allowed to make when it's like a life altering, could possibly be deadly decision that they have to make a choice on? It's not.
Well, that's the problem, right? Like you have to be at death's door before they're going to give you support. And
Mhm.
I, like that was one of your miscarriages. This
Yes,
happened again, didn't it?
it did.
And
Not
what was the experience like the second time?
so. After we had our miscarriage in 2021, we stopped trying. We actively were not trying for the sole reason that it was so incredibly traumatic that
Right.
my husband and I had to make a decision that either we are going to stay in Texas, which we had just moved there, just bought a house, uprooted our whole family. We'd have to do that again and lose our shirt on selling a house we just bought and try to get somewhere else where we felt safe to have a baby, or we would stop trying. And we made the tough decision to just stop trying to have a baby. Fast forward to this year, 2024, I unexpectedly found out I was pregnant in March of this year and was completely blown away. I didn't believe it because we were actively not trying. I'm 44, I have health issues,
Yeah.
all of these things. My first reaction was like, it should be excitement because I wanted a sibling for my daughter, but just the sheer terror
Right.
of the last
Oh,
experience, my heart sunk. It was an immediate, okay, I'm in Texas still. Am I going to die? That was my first thought. It was
oh
not,
my God.
it's not excitement. It's not, hey, I can maybe have a sibling for my daughter. It's not this joyous event. It's like, am I going to die? That was my first thought. So we immediately, I fortunately this time around, I had an OB I had already, been seeing for normal women's care. And I contacted them and I said, I need to get in, I need to get checked out. The issue this time around, it was the same thing that came around in Texas. I have no idea why. OBs don't want to see you until you're at least 8 to 10 weeks pregnant, minimum. I don't understand. Like I straight up said, I am high risk. You have to get me in soon to make sure that I'm okay. I want to have a chance if this is for this to be viable. What vitamins do I need? Is my blood work okay?
Right.
I want a healthy pregnancy. So I ended up going to get an ultrasound at a separate clinic, like those little, ones, the fun ones where you can go in and you like, oh, let's see a picture of the baby. I had to do a
Yeah.
pan pocket, do my own ultrasound while I waited to be able to get in with my OB. The ultrasound looked fine, everything looked okay. And then when I went to finally get in with my OB, I was about 11 and a half, almost 12 weeks pregnant by this point. The same thing. They said that this wasn't viable. The baby had stopped growing around 7 to 8 weeks, is what they estimated. There was no heartbeat and it wasn't viable. So I thought, here we go again. First thought was, okay, I'm gonna have to get out of here. I had asked the OB and I said, I told her straight up, I said, I'm getting a DNC. Like, I'm gonna fight you on this. I'm getting a DNC. I'm not gonna go anywhere. Like, you need to give me one. And so she had actually agreed, which I was shocked. I was like, okay, they're gonna give me a DNC. That was on Wednesday, May 8th. They had scheduled the surgery for Friday morning. The hospital calls me on Thursday, the 9th,
No.
and says, your insurance isn't going to cover this. If you want us to keep the surgery on Friday, you need to pay $15,000 up front. No payment plan, no splitting it up or anything. You need to pay $15,000 today or you don't get your surgery scheduled. So I'm sitting there crying. This is a Thursday afternoon. So my husband's right there with me. We booked plane tickets to fly. We were looking at Colorado and California. So he's calling clinics in California because that's where we are from. We have family there. I was calling Colorado because if we couldn't get on a plane, we were trying to find the closest state to Texas that would allow me to go to a clinic. So we booked appointments at both places, and then we're trying to decide, do we drive or do we fly? We ended up booking tickets to California. We booked plane tickets because it was still going to be cheaper for our whole family to fly to California, have the procedure done, stay in a hotel for a couple days, than to spend $15,000. So we ended up doing that, booking all of that. Within hours of booking those plane tickets and everything, I started to pass at home. Just not to be graphic, but full on bleeding out all over the bathroom. So I knew it was happening. So I was like, okay, I was terrified because I'm like, okay, this is not how my body has responded before. I was in severe pain. Allison, I'm telling you, like, the pain of that miscarriage was beyond any, like, me giving birth or anything like that, and just bleeding out all over the bathroom. The pain's so severe that I'm blacking out. So my miscarriage started around 6 p.m. on Thursday night. By midnight, I had lost so much blood, I was blacking out in the bathroom. So my husband called 911 and had an ambulance come to take me to the hospital. Sorry, try not to get emotional. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm crying.
So, so we go to the hospital by ambulance. Don't recommend this hospital, if I will say that. The ambulance came and picked me up around just after midnight, got me to the hospital. I laid on the stretcher for close to a half hour before they took me in. The hospital was not busy. Like, there was nurses just walking around, and the ambulance had told them, the paramedics were standing with me, and they said, she's miscarrying, she's bleeding a lot. And I could feel it in the stretcher. Like, I was covered, like I was completely wet from the waist down. I didn't want to look because I knew what was happening.
Do you
Um,
feel like you're gonna die? Do you
oh,
understand that it is like the
yeah.
baby bleeding out or
No, I had passed so much in the bathroom at home. I had seen a lot. And I assumed that I already passed a baby because there were so many just massive clots that I had passed, but I still was profusely bleeding out. So that's why I was
Ugh.
like, something's not right. But to be honest, by the time I got to the hospital, because I was blacking out and I was in and out of it so much, I just remember little bits and pieces of it because I wasn't fully conscious. I just remember them asking me some questions and my husband trying to advocate for me. And I just remember being on the stretcher for what felt like forever. And my husband's like, even the paramedics were like, why are you getting her in her room? She's bleeding out. We finally got into a room and I wasn't offered anything. I just bled out there on the table. The ER doctor had come in and said, oh, she's miscarrying. I had to beg my husband because I was in and out of it. I was like, I was screaming. It was horrifying. They finally gave me painkillers and that was it. They came and did an ultrasound and saw that I still had tissue inside of me. I was sent home on this was Friday morning at 7 a.m. So I'd been at the hospital for 7 hours. I had to beg for them to change me because had bled out. Finally, at 4 in the morning, a second nurse had come in and I was conscious at this point a little bit. And I told her, I was like, please, do you have any change of clothes for me? She looked up at the sheets and I was just covered in blood. So she was really kind and cleaned me up and took care of me. But then they dismissed me at 7 in the morning. And I just assumed, okay, what's going on? And then Saturday night at home is when I actually passed it
Oh
at,
my God.
by myself in the bathroom. So,
Oh,
yeah. So that happened on Saturday. So,
did that experience hurt something physically in you? Did it permanently damage your
mhm.
insides by that happening?
Not that I've found out that I know of. I feel like I didn't find out honestly until last week when I had a medical team looking at my records. Um,
Wow.
that they had told me that I was lucky I didn't die. That I
Wow.
could have, because I was sent home with tissue still inside of me, that could have very very quickly and easily had gone to sepsis. So the fact
And
that
they couldn't check it? They couldn't check.
they did check, they did an ultrasound and they sent me home anyways. They never once offered me a DNC to get the remaining tissue out.
Oh,
Nothing. I was sent home with tissue still inside of me. And then fortunately, Saturday, I had no idea that the baby was still even in there. And then Saturday night at 7 p.m., my husband had gone to run an errand real quick because we just figured, okay, this is it. This is the miscarriage. And I went to the bathroom and I just felt it drop. Like I was in, and I instantly knew in that moment when I heard it. And I just start hysterically crying because I knew exactly what it was. And so it adds this extra trauma that I think people don't realize is most women, when they do miscarry, they're doing it in a bathroom. They have to witness that and they have to decide in that moment, do I look? Do I not look? Do I try to dig it out and bury him? Do I flush?
yeah.
What do I do? There's this whole
God.
like guilt and trauma and unknown. I sat there for 10 minutes just hysterically crying. I'm calling my husband. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm headed back. I don't know what to do. And I just didn't have it in me to look or anything. I was like, I don't want to be more traumatized. So then I flushed the toilet because I'm like, I don't want to witness this. I already have enough trauma. And then afterwards,
Yeah.
I just felt this immense guilt and more trauma added on top because then it's
Oh,
like, I wanted this baby and here I am. I'm basically flushing him. We knew it was a boy. Just not. That's why I fight so fiercely for DNCs. I don't understand why it shouldn't be just standard care. That you go in a hospital in a safe place, they remove the miscarriage, there's no witnessing it, there's no horrifying pain, there's no all this trauma emotionally and mentally for a woman. Like my experience for my first miscarriage was beyond just the best it could be for that situation versus what I
right.
experienced in the last two. It was night and day difference.
Oh, Marlena, you are amazing. I couldn't imagine what it must feel like to be actively rejected care.
Mm-hmm.
And in May of this year,
Mm-hmm.
with all of the political tension rising,
Yeah.
I'm curious about your thoughts on abortion or political. You can say whatever you want to say, but like, did you have a political leaning or affiliation that this may have informed perhaps a different way?
I've been very open. Like I voted, I don't consider myself tied to any one party. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like I'm going to vote for the candidate I think is best. I'm not into this. Are you red? Are you blue? I've in my entire life is like, who is going to be the best candidate that has the
Yeah.
policies that I agree with? So when all this went down, it very much pushed me towards being one side because of how horrendously ignored women are when it comes to this issue, that they just don't care. They don't care. There's women actively dying right now. They don't care. They aren't trying to adjust the laws. They aren't making even exceptions for women who are raped or have incest or anything like that. And that tells me right there, like, this isn't about being pro life, it's about pro control. And that's when I started. I was like, okay, I'm definitely not going to be open minded anymore about politics, just to be blunt.
Yeah. I know that you have been courageous enough to go public with your story and to share what that looks like. And again, you have millions of followers and a big platform. What was the response like?
It was over. It depends. It's crazy. It depends on the platform. On YouTube, definitely more understanding. When I posted things on Instagram, it was very mixed. I had to shut down my comments because there was still, in 2024, a generalization of you're advocating for women's rights, so you're a baby killer. That's what it boils down to. There's no nuanced conversations. There's no, well, here's why I believe this. I'm a mom. You're going to say I'm a baby killer, but here I am. My credentials is in teaching. I was a teacher for years. I devoted most of my life to children. I have a child. So that was shocking for me. So it's been mixed. It's always a very difficult conversation to have with people because they don't understand it's not a black and white issue. And because each woman is different and has different circumstances in her life, it shouldn't be anyone else's reason to butt into their life if it's not a decision that they are forced to live with. So I'm super blunt on all of that because women deserve better.
I wonder if experiencing this, can you speak freely in Texas?
No.
You can't.
Mm-mm.
What
No.
does it look
I
like for you?
when I go online, it's out to people everywhere, all over the world. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I share my story online, because me personally, I feel almost safer sharing my story online to millions of people around the world
God.
versus those that just live around me, because
Yeah.
there is a mindset that is very, well, this is how it's been and this is how it's going to stay. And that's been hard to adjust to. Yeah, if I'm going to be honest. I'm not bashing Texans in any way. I think they're the kindest people. It makes me torn because I've met the most amazing people here, so kind, so genuine. But then when it comes to this specific issue, I don't understand logically why there is so much stereotype around this for women and why this is even at a discussion. I just don't understand.
Do you consider moving out of Texas? Do you want to stay there?
No, we're actively moving. We're already going to get out
Wow.
as soon as we can for a few reasons, but the main reason is because of this. I refuse to raise my daughter in an environment where she would be forced to have my shoes.
Mm. I keep thinking about the word defeat. Does it feel like you were defeated?
hmm I even had, because my story in 2021 had blown up so much across the internet, the attorney general here, Ken Paxton, went onto a podcast publicly and straight up said that I was lying. This wasn't true. Texas doesn't deny women care. He never contacted me, never looked up medical records, never contacted my hospital, just straight up lied on the public about my case and never even did research or fact checked or anything. Just ran his mouth and said whatever he wanted to say. That pissed me off beyond belief. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, like, in this post Roe world and President elect Trump going into office, and God knows what is going to happen. There's so much misinformation out there. I've done a lot of homework on what does it take to change somebody's mind. And it really is kind of curiosity and asking questions about what was your experience? What happened to you? What was your experience that made you believe what you believe?
Mhm.
And I wonder, I know that you shared before we recorded that there are a lot of people that have reached out to you with their stories that were similar, is there any way forward? I know that you're not necessarily the the political advocate for this, but you do have
Mhm.
a big platform. And I think that as somebody who did not vote for Trump and feels very intensely scared, a woman who's got a daughter as well, that I don't know that she's going to be protected in the future.
Mhm.
I think we're all trying to make sense of what can we do? What can we do to help?
I think honestly, I think I ask myself that question all the time, and for me, it's being mouthy as hell. I think the older
Mouthy as hell. Okay.
yes.
What does it
You
mean
know,
to be mouthy as hell?
I mean, I just blast all over the place on TikTok, Instagram, social media. I tell my story. I will chime in. I will comment. I will share my story every day, all day, and just be mouthy as hell, because until the stereotypes are broken around pregnancy and all of this blame being shifted solely on women, that's a whole nother conversation to have.
Oh,
I have never seen comments saying he should keep his pants zipped. It's always women blaming. And until people, women included, that's what makes me so heartbroken, is it's a lot of these comments come from women who have this mindset that has been ingrained in us for all of these years, that women should be the blame for this. This is because women sleep around, they're not careful, this and that. There's so much shame and blame solely on a woman. But then when that woman is in that position of having to either fight for her life or making the most difficult decision of her life, then all of a sudden it's everyone else's business. So
Mm,
until that stereotype is broken, I don't see change happening, because that mindset will just keep getting passed down to further generations of, oh, it's women, it's they're the problem.
mm.
It just, I wish I could have a more positive answer, but for me,
I
I'm just
know.
mouthy as
I
hell.
I think I love being mouthy as hell. And I think when I talk among my girlfriends that are really upset over this, and it feels like, is there any hope? Is there any hope for us? And it feels like we have to kind of throw our hands up in the air. But I
Mhm.
think it's the storytelling,
It is.
like there's an Instagram account that somebody had shared with me called Abortion in America. And this account where I have a friend of mine whose mom is very pro life, and
Mhm.
she does kind of spew like, well, they should not sleep around. They should just go somewhere else. Like it's so casual.
Yeah, but
And
why is there
she
never a conversation about the men? I don't.
never, but
Never.
she had actually made her mother read the stories or listen to the stories. And it's starting to change her mind a little bit because they are so personal.
Are.
Imagine your daughter, imagine your friend, imagine all of these people. I know that you and I are preaching to the choir, and I believe that a lot of the people that listen to this podcast probably feel the same way.
Yeah.
And so I love the thought of being mouthy as hell. And
Mhm.
I'd be curious to know what has given you peace and comfort and solace as
Mhm.
you kind of unwound and started to heal from all of these experiences. What has been really helpful for you?
I think honestly, hearing other women's stories and actually meeting in person with other women. So once I started telling my story, I actively was seeking out other women, even just in Texas, to hear their stories too. And just us bonding over our shared experiences has helped us both grieve in that moment of
Mm,
sharing, and me sharing my story publicly and seeing so many comments, like thousands of comments of other women who have had something similar or have had losses and are still traumatized by that. So I think having that open conversation has definitely been this first step for me to, at least in my hopes, to make some change, because change can't happen until we at least talk about it first. And then once we start talking and being mouthy as hell, then going out there, and in my mind, it's like there needs to be some sort of celebrity that gets everyone together to protest. I mean, I know some people are like, oh, protesting doesn't do anything. It does when there's enough people. And I feel like I don't know what us women need to do to band out together and have a Women's Day where we are all out in the streets and saying this is not okay. That it's going to take a lot of pressure to make any changes. Because
Are
right now,
there is there a community or a group in Texas that you've connected with that has been really supportive?
um, not that I have found personally yet. I am looking. I do feel like here, this may just be me, that I do feel a bit isolated in my thoughts with that. So I'm looking, but I don't right now. And that's been hard.
So for anyone listening, please reach out to Marlena Stell. We need
Please.
each other. I do think that we are in a little bit of a position of people that feel really disappointed with the election. It feels like we need to rest and rise again, rest and rise again. And so part of it is kind of sharing those stories and figuring out how can we do this. And
Mhm.
there are a lot of organizations like Planned Parenthood that already are organized enough. They just need resources. They need money. They need more mouthy women. They need more mouthy people, mouthy as hell,
Mhm.
to help kind of further that there are a lot. And I'm going to link them in the show notes. I've actually done an episode when Roe v. Wade was overturned over what can we do. And I'm going to share some of those resources in the show notes of this. Marlena, tell me what you're excited about. What's next for you?
I think getting ready to move, we are excited about that. I'm not going to lie. And I always hate to say that because I know people who live here are going to be offended by that. So I think we are excited about moving, not in the fact that we are against anyone here at all. Like I've said, there's so many amazing people in Texas. I truly do love Texans. They are beyond kind and genuine. I think for me, it's just I've got to get a change. There's too much trauma that has happened to me here, and I don't feel
Yeah.
safe here. I don't even want to step foot in a hospital. I don't trust the
Oh,
medical system here whatsoever. My experiences, especially for maternal care, has been horrifying and awful. And I understand why Texas is almost dead last for maternal mortalities. I see it with my own eyes. It is dead last for a reason. And, they obviously aren't trying to change or fix that as part of this whole movement that they want to pass. If you want to be pro-life, you got to start fixing what's broken. And it's obviously broken if the maternal mortality is almost dead last. So
yeah.
let's fix that. There's so much that needs to change, and I just don't see light at the end of the tunnel. So that's when I'm like, I'm getting out. I'm not raising my daughter here.
Where are you moving to? Do you know?
Colorado.
All right. Where?
We're looking at kind of close to Boulder area, so west of
Okay.
Denver.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it out there. I'll have to come see you. I go out there a lot.
Yes, it's beautiful. We just need nature, and I feel safer there as far as the care that I would receive.
Mm,
So that makes
yeah.
me happy. Yeah.
Yeah, they put in some really incredible protections for abortion in Colorado, which
Mhm.
was I was grateful for that. I'm grateful for you and for your story. And if people want to talk to you or share their story or connect with you, where are the best ways to find you?
I think if they could message me on my social media, it's Marlena Stell on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I don't check Facebook as much, but the other platforms, if they message me on there, I always check my direct messages and try to respond to as many people as I can.
Well, you are amazing. Thank you so much for your courage and for your vulnerability and for sharing such a personal story. It makes a difference, and I'm so honored that you would share it with our audience.
Yeah, thanks for your time. I'm so grateful for you too and your support and love. It means the world.
You're the best. Oh, Marlena's story is so devastating, but here is the real takeaway. No one should have to fight for medical care while grieving a loss. So what can you do? Well, start by sharing this episode. Talk about it. Challenge the silence. And if you're ready to turn awareness into action, check the show notes for ways to advocate, support, and push for change. I did a whole entire episode when Roe v. Wade was turned about all the ways that you can actually make a difference that you may not be thinking of. It may not be the most obvious ways that you might think. So I put that together for you. Your voice matters. And trust me, this isn't a conversation we can afford to ignore. Big, big thanks and big love to Marlena Stell for sharing her powerful, incredible message. I don't think this is going to be the last that we hear from her, as her story is getting some notoriety and getting some traction, and hopefully advocating for change. And as for you, if you are looking to make your voice heard and create change in your world, I have opened up a couple of spots for the podcast launch cohort that I'm running. If you're interested in making your ideas into a reality or a successful business venture, or even to promote your business or you as an entrepreneur, schedule a free call with me at AllisonHair.com/free call, because you deserve to be seen, you deserve to be heard, and you deserve a career and life that shines as brightly as you do. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.